Couch Potato General Manager back with another video. Guys, we're jumping into our 2022 NFL draft grades by division. Of course, we'll break down each individual team in each division, but we will group these teams together by division, give our draft grades after we go with a little bit of an analysis breakdown in terms of how these teams fared during the 2022 NFL draft. A very entertaining 2022 NFL draft. And we're going to start with Headley's Atlanta Falcons. And Headley, before we get into the actual individual players and what Atlanta did over the course of those 3 days, how do you feel? What was your initial reaction, I should say, with respect to the class overall?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it, man. Value, also the talent at the positions of need. I think the defenses needed a shake-up. So day two, Hall was pretty great for the defensive side of the ball. Boy, Big Draco, number one receiver on the board, man, for them. So overall, man, I love the class, man. I love that running back selection. They just released Mike Davis. So, yeah, I'm very happy as a Falcon fan on the direction, man, where we're going.
Drew, as a rival Bucs fan, NFC South, combatants here at Couch Potato General Manager, what'd you think about how the Falcons fared?
I think they did really well. I think they did, I don't want to say incredible, because it's a team that going into the draft, we were thinking, they just need talent. You know what I'm saying? Grab as many picks as you can and let's load this thing up, because this is one of the teams, we were looking at free agency, just different things in terms of the depth chart. It wasn't good. I think they went into the draft. They knew what they needed and they went and got it, man. I know that they just signed Grady Jarrett as of today, if I'm not mistaken. And you talk about the two edge guys they got, they piecing it together. They putting it together, man. It's coming along. I don't know if they're movers and shakers this year, but it's coming together.
No, it's definitely a multi-year rebuild. But in terms of them jump-starting this rebuild, as far as the 2022 NFL draft is concerned, I'd agree with both of you. I think they've done a good job here. Of course, we have a prospect head-to-head matchup with respect to Drake London and Jahan Dotson. Guys, check that out on the channel. But I was anticipating Garrett Wilson, if not perhaps Kyle Hamilton, if they just went and go best player available perhaps. But I'm okay with the Drake London pick, especially if you're really considering bringing back Calvin Ridley, which he'll be under contract. Of course, he won't play this year, but in 2023, I imagine he'll be reinstated and he will be under team control for that year. You pair him up with Drake London. Of course, you have another offseason, another draft to add more pieces to it. Of course, you already have Kyle Pitts. I like it. I like the dimensions that adding a Drake London brings to this team. One of the big issues the Falcons have had for eons now, it would seem, is in the red zone in terms of being able to score touchdowns, finish drives. You know what I mean? And London gives you that larger frame, that ability to make plays in traffic. I think he's an underrated separator. It's not his calling card, but I do think that part of his game is underrated, especially in the short to intermediate parts of the field. He's not running by folks. Let's call it what it is. But that's not his game. That's not what his talent is predicated on. And of course, what he does after the catch is really impressive. Again, Garrett Wilson was my receiver one, but I've warmed up more to what Drake London can be down the road for this particular offense.
Like you said, a lot of mocks or people anticipated Garrett Wilson. But, after they selected Drake London, you started thinking, you connected the dots, like Arthur Smith, he comes from Tennessee. He drafted A.J. Brown, a bigger receiver. He wants to run the football, multiple tight end sets. So we want to be bigger out there. So from that perspective, I understand Drake London over Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson was my wide receiver one. I thought, the talent, the separation, the route running that he possesses. But, a big body, kind of like Kyle Pitts, and to get physical also, in the pass and the run game. So, it made sense for me, once I started, thinking more about the coach and scheme and the fit.
Right. What they're trying to build there. What the personality of that offense, that team is supposed to look like.
Listen, could you imagine, Ridley playing in the slot? Then you got Kyle Pitts on one side on the outside. Then you got Drake London on the outside on the other side. Everybody don't have them kind of corners, man. Nobody has those kind of corners. I like the Drake London pick, man. Right before the draft, they were saying that's probably going to be the pick. And when you think about Kyle Pitts and you think about, like you said, Arthur Smith, it makes sense. Sense.
Yeah.
I really got excited in day two, like I said earlier, man. The Ebiketie, Troy Anderson, D'Angelo Malone.
Yeah.
Those three players right there in particular, where, like you said, we have Grady Jarrett locked up, have those two guys on the edges, and then linebacker like Troy Anderson that could fly all over the field. I know we just lost Foye, so he could step into that role. Dean Pease is gonna bring the house. We don't know where it's gonna come from, and it's just up to the guys on the back end to cover, man.
Terrell?
AJ Terrell. There you
Come
go.
on.
My bad, man. That is a superstar of the defense, man. AJ Terrell to cover up all of that, all those blitzes that I'm expecting. So we got the guy to cover on the back end as well. So I like where this defense is going, and that's been the thorn of the Falcons for since John Abraham.
Yo.
It's decades. It's decades since we had a defense like that. So. We just wanted guys to get after the quarterback. We're always at the bottom 5 in sacks, can't get after the quarterback. So hopefully this is a change.
I feel like what the Falcons did on day 2 as well. They hit up Mobile. They hit up Mobile hard.
They did hit
all
Mobile.
4 picks were from Mobile. You mentioned some of the incumbents. Of course, Grady Jarrett, to your point, Drew, he gets the extension. They bring in Rashawn Evans. AJ Terrell obviously took a huge leap last year. He looks phenomenal. Casey Hayward, we're anticipating him being across from him. And then my guy, Richie Grant, another former Senior Bowl participant, he should step into a more prominent role in 2022. I like the makings of it. I really like the makings of it. And I'm really excited about Ebikhedi and D'Angelo Malone. Malone was a guy that we had been touting for months now, Drew. You and I, we had the pleasure of seeing him down in Mobile, and we've been touting him. And, we get people would comment and say, oh, this is a, non-power 5. Late day 3 guy, whatever the case. And of course, he goes in the 3rd round because he's that good. There's the production obviously is there, and of course, sacks aren't always the best determining factor, but certainly he got after it in terms of creating pressure on a consistent basis. And when you see him matching up against the best seniors in the country, he's a problem. He's a problem. He's not going to be an every down guy, I don't think, out the gate, but I think he will certainly develop into that. But he gives you a lot of teeth in terms of your pass rush, along with Ebikhedi. And when you start talking about advanced statistics, in addition to some of your typical counting stats, Ebikhedi ranks among those guys that got picked at the top of the 1st round. So great value. A little bit older players, but I don't think that's an issue here. In fact, I look at it from a glass half full perspective. I believe that these guys are able to contribute sooner rather than later. There's a maturity in terms of their mindset, their preparation, and their bodies. You understand what I'm saying? So I expect everybody in day 2, including Troy Anderson, to have an immediate impact, and we could see Desmond Ridder at some point. And I think in terms of the quarterbacks, in terms of all the quarterbacks, most of which were at Mobile, we got a chance to see them live. I thought Ridder helped himself the most throughout the pre-draft process in terms of being able to really kind of substantiate the fact that he needs to be one of those quarterbacks given an opportunity to eventually become a starter. Now, there was talks perhaps he would go in the 1st, maybe 2nd round. It didn't work out that way. Only one quarterback went in the first 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. But I like this landing spot for Ridder. Again, another very mature player. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get in this playbook. Has a certain level of leadership about him. And of course, if you check out some of the footage that we have on Couch Potato General Manager, you'll see his performance as well as his interview during the media day.
Oh, just real quick, in terms of day 2, they got speed, man. You kind of know what they want to do. They want to play fast, and they want to play, should I say, a little bit loose. They want to get after the quarterback, and the 2 edge players that they got, they're going to do that. You got Ebikhedi, who's a longer guy who I think he could defend the edge and rush the passer with the bend that he has. And Malone just a burst and fire off the edge. Love to see it.
The power is beautiful.
At the Senior Bowl, we were mistaking him for Jermaine Johnson at times. His helmet is a little bit brighter. Malone is. So we were just like, is that not that's D'Angelo Malone, because they look similar at times. And yeah, I mean, you spoke to Desmond Ridder, the leadership and whatnot. So like you said, there's a good chance we might see him. Because I know you guys hate on Mariota, or as Kelly would call him, Mariota.
Mariota, he'll win some games for us. So I don't know if Ridder is going to get on the field early. I think Mariota could hold himself off until probably the middle of the season.
Yeah, that's what I'm anticipating. Once it's kind of decided that Atlanta isn't necessarily going to be a playoff team, once that mathematically works out, I anticipate seeing Desmond Ridder at that point. So we move on to day 3, and we have a trio of selections, 1 in the 5th round, 2 in the 6th. Tyler Algier, running back from BYU. No Headley's a fan. I'm going to let him speak to Algier and his thoughts of what he can do sooner rather than later, considering, like you mentioned, Mike Davis has been released. Justin Schaefer, we got a chance to see him at the Senior Bowl. I actually think his teammate, Jamari Sawyer, is a better prospect. I actually expected him to come off perhaps even in the second round. He didn't get picked until late 6th round. I imagine there's a medical issue there. He's the better player, but Schaefer, I think, can come in there and certainly kind of be the swing guard initially, see if he develops into a start. And then John Fitzpatrick, tight end from Georgia. Of course, every team in the NFL has about 10 tight ends, so
sure.
Certainly not mad at it. You know what I'm saying? The utility that the tight end position offers in terms of being an extension of your offensive line, special teams, it makes a lot of sense at this juncture. So what are your thoughts, Headley, particularly on Algier?
Yeah, Algier, man, this is my running back sleeper in the class. Just the patience he runs with and the toughness. It reminds me, I know he doesn't have the burners like Elijah Mitchell from 49ers, but just how he runs physical, workhorse type running back. I know he probably won't be the workhorse in Atlanta with Cordell Patterson. Also, we signed Damian Williams in the offseason. So it's going to be a trio of running backs on the football field. But, you know, the toughness and the patience that Algier runs with is just, he's going to get 4 yards to carry, man. You know, that's the type of running back he is. It's always going to fall forward, keep his feet moving, take some load off of Cordell Patterson. At the end of the season, he wore down a little bit. So we're going to need these big bodies to keep him fresh all year. So I love that pick, man. And, you know, Schaefer, some more depth along the offensive line. Fitzpatrick, another guy that could block it and help the offensive line out too.
Schaefer is a guy who, you know, we're talking about Arthur Smith and the offense they want to run. They want to run the football, take the play action, take their shots down the field. And Schaefer's a guy he's willing to mix it up. You know, he's a bigger guy, and he's a guy who he gonna move people. He's a people mover. And what comes with those guys. The good is he's going to move people, but the bad is if he's across from someone who's a little quick, a little fast, you know, he might get caught slipping, moving a little too slow. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you know, hey man, that's why you call him a swing guard. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to stick him in right now and throw him in there and he can figure it out, or he can just stay to be the swing guard and move people out when they, you know, go heavy package. And then you got John Fitzpatrick, who's just essentially a blocking tight end. You know, caught some passes at Georgia, but that's what he was there for. And again, it's Arthur Smith offense. Got to have tight ends to block. Everybody can't be an official offensive tackle or guard or center. You got to have tight ends too.
Give me your grade, Drew.
Say A, bro.
Ooh.
I'm gonna give him an A, man, because they did what they needed to do. You know what I mean? I could see all these picks being players this year. All the way down to the tight end. Everything they did made sense, man. They didn't reach for anybody. You know what I'm saying? They took a stab at the quarterback position, which I'm fine with, because we, you know, who is the future there? We don't know. And I mean, they filled all needs. So,
yeah, I agree. It's an A. It's an A. I think you get even to an A plus. Depending on Desmond Ridder and what he does in the league. If he becomes a guy that could start for the next 10 years for these guys, he said he's not leaving until he wins a Super Bowl. So, you know, he definitely have the confidence. So we'll see. If he becomes that guy, then, you know, this draft is definitely an A plus, in my opinion.
All right. I ain't got no grade.
Ain't got no grade?
I actually, you know, should I give a grade? I ain't trying to throw cold water on it, bro.
You can do it, man.
Should have went first, bro.
Different of opinions, man.
You know, I certainly understand both of you giving this draft class, this 2022 NFL draft class for the Atlanta Falcons an A. There are players that I liked a little bit more with respect to the Troy Anderson selection. It was offsetted by the D'Angelo Malone. They ain't play with it. You know what I'm saying? There's some edge rushers that came off the board before Malone that I think Malone is simply better in terms of getting after the passer. So I'm gonna give it a solid B plus. I'm gonna give it a solid B plus. You know what I mean? There's another back that I liked, you know, a little bit more than Algier.
Jerome Ford.
Well, that's my guy, bro.
Here we go. Where did he get drafted, bro?
Sweet spot. That was kind of the sweet spot for him. But overall, a very, very nice class here. I think the Falcons did a good job. And of course, you have to keep in mind that you're not going to be able to turn this thing around in one fell swoop. All right, this is going to take a 2 to 3 drafts to really get it humming. That doesn't mean that it can't be competitive, but certainly in order to for these guys to really demonstrate what they're capable of, we can't expect all of that in 1 year. But in terms of the players that they got and the areas on the football team that they were able to address with the picks that they have, I think the Falcons did a bang-up job. So let's move on. All right, next up we have the Carolina Panthers in their 2022 NFL draft class, and we're going to grade them. But let's get into some of these players in terms of what they did ultimately. The decision, obviously, often debated in terms of whether or not they would go quarterback or offensive tackle. With the 6th overall pick, they ultimately selected Ikem Ekwonu. I imagine that both of you had Ekwonu as your top tackle, if I'm not mistaken, in the class. Yep. So obviously netting him is a big deal. I assume Brady Christensen will be the left guard. When they entered the draft, they didn't have any day 2 selections, but they got aggressive as Matt Corral was sliding. Headley, you actually really like Corral as well in terms of his upside. I think Ben McAdoo had him pegged in terms of what they want to do. I think you're going to see more RPO from this particular team. Those 2 picks, let's start with those 2 selections. And I'm going to start with you, Drew. What were your thoughts?
I mean, the Icky pick is just chalk, man. It was just who were they going to get? They
was it going to be Neal? Was it going to be Icky? Yeah.
Or at most drafts I saw, usually mock drafts I saw was usually Charles Cross at that point. So, sure. You know what I mean? Any one of those guys, and they got the guy they wanted. It's like you said, a number 1 offensive tackle makes sense. They said it going into or in the offseason that they need to protect the quarterback. And like I said earlier, I know Sam Darnold's played poorly, but a lot of that had to do with offensive line play. I mean, they couldn't run the football. That ain't Sam Darnold's fault. So this is a guy who's going to allow you to be able to run the football, move people out the way. He's the bouncer out the club. He's you in there, throwing up and spilling the liquor. He's going to take you out and he going to Uncle Phil you. So, and then you talk about Matt Corral, man. It's obviously a guy who we should have seen at the Senior Bowl. He's probably the guy I actually wanted to see at the Senior Bowl, but obviously, he got injured beforehand.
Yep.
Right. It's unfortunate. Every year he's gotten better since he's played at Mississippi.
Matt Corral, man, I'm just going to read off my notes on him because, like you said, it was certain parts of his game where, within the right offense and the RPO offense, like he did in Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. And if Carolina tailors that offense around him, I know they still have Sam Darnold, but I think with those weapons he had with Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, all of those boys, I think he could succeed here in Carolina. First read, he got the ball out of his hands quickly. He can work different arm angles, can use his legs to pick up additional yardage. He has an arm talent to throw any pass. What I would like to see him do more is he steps up, but he runs a lot where sometimes you got to step up, look downfield, and find a receiver if plays break down. I know you could do the first read, quick throw RPO offense, but to progress at the next level for him, he will have to get through his progression, step up, go to a second and third reads. I think that's where he struggles because when he rushes his mechanics, he gets a little inaccurate. But, first read, quick throw offense, if they implement that could help him develop as a future starter for the Carolina Panthers.
And they have the makings of a solid supporting cast, particularly if they get this offensive line solidified. At skill positions, I think there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of young talent there. So Corral, given the opportunity, we'll see ultimately how it works out in terms of Sam Darnold, whether or not Sam Darnold turns a corner with better play from the offensive line. But Corral could very likely have an opportunity to run with this gig given that chance. Let's move on to day 3 real quick with Brandon Smith, Amare Barno. Barno was actually the first player in the class to sign his rookie contract. He didn't waste any time. We got a chance to see him down.
That money, you got bills to pay.
That.
It's time to play this, man.
Cade Mays as well, and then Kalen Barnes in the 7th round, cornerback from Baylor, the speedster. I believe he ran the fastest 40 in the 2022 class.
4.23, bro.
4.23 speedster. So of course they address every level of their defense with their limited picks. Of course they had limited draft capital here, and they add Cade Mays, whom was a highly touted prospect, never really quite lived up to the billing, but I think if he can get some coaching and he can stay healthy, I think health is a big concern with respect to him as well. You at a minimum have a decent swing guard. I think the thought process, certainly, considering how ballyhooed he was as a prospect, was that, this was going to be a day 2 guy at worst and a starter, a long-term NFL starter. So we'll see. We'll see if they there was a late pick from the offensive line for the Tennessee Volunteers last year in Trey Smith, and of course he's done a wonderful job in his rookie season with Kansas City. Let's see if Cade Mays has somewhat of a similar ascension in terms of his play at the NFL level. What do you think about the day 3 selections?
So I'm gonna start with Cade Mays. Played 5 positions, so that might be part of the problem.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's settle him in. He can play guard, can play center. I think he needs to be an interior guy versus being an outside guy, because I think that when he's at the point of attack, it's either he gonna win or he gonna lose. Like, it's gonna be bad, bro. It's either gonna be great or it's gonna be bad.
Nothing
you know what I'm saying? nothing in between, and saw that at the Senior Bowl. And so I think, just settling it at one particular position, maybe you make him versatile, later in his career. But right now, just settle him in at either center or guard. And I think you might have a player here, because obviously we go back to the offensive line. And I mean, it was bad last year. For the Virginia Tech edge, man, he ran a 4.36.
Yeah, he did.
Outstanding burst and explosiveness. And then that's kind of where it stops, because he doesn't finish. So if he can get that last little piece to finish off, I think they might have an edge here. And Brandon Smith is a guy who used to play safety, moving down the linebacker, still kind of learning the position. But he got speed. And he's explosive. And that was the name of the game at the end of the day for the defensive guys they went out and got. As you can see, because Barnes obviously ran the 4.23, and he just got technique issues. I mean, it's nice that they have speed, but you got to be able to, play football. So,
All right. For my money, they get a solid B. What about you guys?
I'll give them a B with what they got.
Yeah, I'm going to go B also.
All right. B's all around. All right. So we move right along in these 2022 NFL draft grades for the NFC South teams. And we're now with the New Orleans Saints here. The Saints ultimately ended with 5 selections. Of course, they were very busy in terms of moving up the draft board, and of course, it's cost them some draft capital in some upcoming years as well. But they managed to get their guy at the top here in Chris Olave. They didn't take any chance as the receiver run began. They made sure that they acquired Olave, and now they had that receiver to pair with Michael Thomas or pair with anybody. That's really been an issue for the Saints for quite some time. Finding competent and dependable pass catchers outside of Michael Thomas in recent years. Olave to the Saints, guys. What do you think?
I think it's a great fit. They definitely needed a receiver. That was, like you said, one of their biggest thorns last season. Other than quarterbacks getting injured as well, had to play Taysom, but they had nobody to throw to, man. Callaway, receiver I thought he was going to take a step. He really didn't take that step last season. Michael Thomas missed the whole year. So I think the Olave-Michael Thomas connection, man, it was the Ohio State connection at that. I think those guys really could feed off each other. And Michael Thomas could take some pressure off of Olave. Olave could take some pressure from Michael Thomas, vice versa. So, with a healthy Jameis Winston, hopefully Kamara is in the backfield. I know he had some legal issues going on there. The only knock, though, is you pretty much get a first and a second round pick to move up to get a wide receiver. Usually, you do that to get quarterbacks.
Sure.
So a wide receiver, that's the only thing, but the fit does make sense for the Saints here with Olave.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with what they did. I'm absolutely okay with it. I know it's a lot of capital, but the Saints are one of those teams that when they see a guy, they go get their guy. They don't BS. They don't wait around. They go and get him. And for months, most people were saying Olave is probably the best fit in terms of the receivers that were coming out that would go to the Saints. It just makes sense in terms of the play styles when you talk about Olave playing off of Michael Thomas or vice versa. It just makes sense. And I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it, until the season begins. The Saints' problem wasn't quarterback. Even when it got down to the nitty gritty of the 4th and 5th string quarterback, it wasn't the quarterback that lost them games. It was the damn receivers. I mean, they beat the Bucs, was it 9-0? You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't, they were able to win. You know what I mean? So they needed a receiver. They saw a guy that they wanted, that they knew fit their offense, as did everyone else, and they went and they got him. And they didn't sell the farm to well, I guess they did sell the farm to get him, but they sold a chunk of the farm. They sold a chunk of the farm. But their next pick also filled a need as well, which is a first-round pick.
Sure. And that's what we anticipated, that with the initial trade up with the Eagles obviously get their 2023 first-round selection, was to ensure that they got, from our perspective, and I think widely, it was accepted or expected that the Saints were going to target a receiver and an offensive tackle. And of course, Trevor Penning was kind of that guy. Now, everybody's not a fan of Trevor Penning. There's certainly some issues with respect to his technique, particularly in pass pro. I think he's nails in terms of the running game, but in pass pro, the hands and feet don't always work in unison, and that gets him in trouble, right? Apparently, he'd been working with Duke Manyweather for quite some time. He's a notable offensive lineman whisperer, offensive line masterminds, I believe, is the camp that he runs down in Texas. I really respect his insight and his knowledge and ability to teach the techniques to offensive linemen. I believe Evan Neal and Charles Cross were there, along with Trevor Penning, Darian Kennard, and Andrew Stuber. So all guys who got drafted, some big names in there. And he claims that it's been fixed. The hands have been fixed, and we'll see. We'll ultimately see when the bullets start flying. But as far as athleticism, as far as traits, Trevor Penning certainly was a day-round consideration. The film, not so much, but we've also mentioned this when we've done our mock drafts and gone through the rigmarole as it pertains to Trevor Penning. You can't teach his disposition. You can't teach his athleticism, right? And the Saints have an excellent coaching group here or coaching staff in terms of development of offensive linemen. So I think Trevor Penning can have success in New Orleans. I think he certainly can. Again, we all have alluded to it or all mentioned it. You know, it was a lot. It was a lot in order to acquire the receiver as well, but they did get the guy that they covet. And this team is of the mindset that they're not far away. So in day two, they only have one day two pick in this particular scenario after a series of trades. They selected Alante Taylor, cornerback from Tennessee. And Taylor has like something crazy, like 33-inch arms, like,
and he's fast.
And he's fast. He's like prototypical cover three man with some traits of man. But I do think he'll provide some versatility. Of course, that's what they covet. That's what they covet amongst their defensive backs here in New Orleans. Dennis Allen, he's a big proponent of that. So he might be able to match up there on the boundary as well as play safety.
Yeah. You know, one of his issues was actually coming out of his break. You know, when he's covering, you know, a receiver, and I think playing safety takes him away from that and can have him just kind of read and react to what's in front of him. So
eyes on the passer. Yep.
Use the arm length to get to the, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it makes sense. And Saints are one of those teams, we talked about it with the offensive line. They also develop defensive backs too. So
certainly,
it's a good fit, I think.
Yep. And on day three, pair of draft selections. Of course, Alante Taylor was a Senior Bowl participant along with Penning and DeMarco Jackson, a linebacker from Appalachian State. He was a defensive player of the year in the Sun Belt. Impressive range and instincts in coverage in particular. And I think that is a priority. That's a priority in this day and age in terms of a passing league where we have so many throws at or behind the line of scrimmage. And then certainly there's a lot going behind just that second level of the defense in terms of mesh concepts and digs and deep crossers and things of that nature. He has the ability to get depth, find the football, make plays on the football. There's one play in particular during the Senior Bowl game this year that really stood out to me. I think there was a play action fake that just about everybody bid on, but then Jackson just turns and runs to a spot, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, he just puts his head down, turns and runs to a spot about 25 yards from the line of scrimmage and makes a tackle on Romeo Doubs. Of course, they completed the pass, you know, but just the fact that he understood what was happening behind him and made that beeline in order to make a play on the receiver, because, of course, Doubs makes that catch. He could turn up the field and may have scored otherwise. So I thought that was really impressive. And when you look at his tape, you can see just the instincts and the range and coverage in particular, sideline to sideline. Coming downhill, not necessarily great all the time, particularly against, you know, bigger, better competition. But certainly I think that's an area where he can improve. He can stand to improve. And then, of course, we have Jordan Jackson. They needed some depth at defensive tackle. He comes in to provide some of that depth out of Air Force. You guys, what are your thoughts on those two players?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of DeMarco Jackson, I mean, you kind of said it all. I think he gives you a little bit more spice and flash in terms of the linebacker position. He's got a little bit more flash and dash than Pete Werner, but I think to me that they might be a little bit similar. But I think Pete Werner's better in the run game, while Jackson might be better in the pass game, getting back and making plays on the football. And then Jordan Jackson.
Is this an indictment of Zach Bond, do you think?
I mean, we need competition.
Oh, that's good. I mean, competition is a great thing. You're right about that.
And then just in terms of Jordan Jackson, you know, the Saints are always known to at least add a D lineman or two coming out of the draft, and it's usually a guy with some type of they have a type on the edge, and they want speed on the inside, and I think Jordan Jackson gives you that. You know, can play most likely can play the three technique, get through the gap, and cause disruption and mayhem in the middle of that defense, or middle of the offensive line, I should say.
Yeah, DeMarco Jackson, I thought it was a fun tape to watch. He kept on popping up, always around the football. And, you know, he could cover, but he also could get after the quarterback also. Pete Werner, they really like him. Demario Davis is a beast. He's been producing for a long time, one of the most underrated players in the NFL. So
Definitely.
he definitely has some guys he can learn behind also.
All right, let's grade them up. What kind of grade do the New Orleans Saints get for the 2022 NFL Draft, Drew?
I'm gonna give him a B plus.
Okay, B plus.
B plus. Yeah.
Deadly.
I'm gonna give him just a B. I ain't gonna go with the plus. Alontae Taylor is a good player. I don't know. I thought it was a little early there. Penning, he to me, I guess he was the fourth best tackle in the class, but he's a little raw. Still needs some improvement there. But like you guys said earlier, the coaching staff could really coach up offensive line over there in New Orleans. So he probably becomes viable. But capital they gave him for Olave, it was a lot. But he is a fit. Give it a B.
I think just the capital that they gave up overall, it detracts from their overall grade a little bit. And you're right. Trevor Penning's been working on it. Make no mistake about it. He's been working on it. We'll see whether or not his labor bears fruit. Taylor, again, if you're thinking in terms of him transitioning to safety, then I'm okay with the second round selection. But otherwise I agree with you. At least it's more of a traits related selection with respect to him. DeMarco Jackson, I like quite a bit, especially in the 5th round, and Jordan Jackson. It's hard to argue with, bringing in a guy who can certainly add some depth to an area of need. But I'm gonna go with a B minus because I still think in terms of the receivers overall, in terms of what they gave up to move up those 5 picks, in relation to what some of the other teams did in terms of getting guys who are already established at the receiver position. Yeah, you get the rookie contract, but I thought it was steep.
Let me ask you, if it's any receiver on the board and they take your number one receiver or y'all's number one receiver and Garrett Wilson, are you throwing a plus in there? You improving the grade, or it's the same?
For me, I think it's about the same. Like giving up a first round pick next year in a class that's looking like it's going to be loaded. You don't know where you're going to land in that class. So it's just the draft capital. That's the issue for me. I'm not mad at Olave or if it was Garrett Wilson. They're both good receivers, but I think it was the capital that kind of detracted me from this draft class.
Yeah. Drew, to your point, it probably goes from a B minus, with the grade that I'm giving them as is, to a B if they get Garrett Wilson. For me.
Okay. Okay, let me see if I can add another plus. Okay.
There we go.
Let's go. Let's say you are the Saints and you realize receiver was the issue. You got your guy and Olave. You've got your guy in Penning in terms of the offensive line. These guys end up being what you think they are, and I think we all can agree that they are going to be who they are. And the Saints don't finish anywhere, within the top 25 picks because they go to the playoffs. They probably don't have a shot at a receiver at that point. So I think maybe their thought process is, hey, man, let's just go all in and get the guy that we want that matches our offense in terms of the receiver position, because we don't know where we're going to land next year. So let's just do that.
It's a lot of mitigating factors. Of course, people will argue that the salary cap doesn't exist. They had to make some decisions. They had to make some different moves. So that kind of puts you in a precarious situation at times. That may force your hand somewhat. I think part of the grade that I give them in relation to the draft capital that they ultimately relinquished is a byproduct of my thought process as it pertains to the quarterback position. I think you guys are a little bit more optimistic about Jameis than I am. Not that I don't think that Jameis can't be a quality quarterback, but I don't like the idea of losing a Hall of Famer in Drew Brees, losing your offensive mastermind in Sean Payton, and then thinking, oh, okay, no, we're let's push all our chips to the table. You know what I'm saying? With Jameis Winston coming off of an injury, and that'll be the panacea. You know what I'm saying? Get the receiver opposite Michael Thomas, who we haven't seen really good Michael Thomas in about 2 years, right? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, Trevor Penning, again, a little bit raw in terms of his pass pro. I can live with it. But that's part of the reason why I kind of knocked them down a peg or two. I'd like to be in a position where, if this thing does go belly up, it doesn't work out quite the way we anticipate, then I have necessary draft capital in order to be aggressive about getting a quarterback next year. You know what I mean? That's my thought process. I'm like I said, I'm not as bullish about the quarterback room as I guess some are, considering the construction of this roster in its entirety. I think this team is going to go through a bit of a transition. And then you mentioned it earlier, Hadley, Kamara. What's the situation there? We didn't get a running back. We didn't get a running back in this draft. There were guys available day 3 that could contribute. I don't know how much Mark Ingram still has in the tank. So, that's just kind of yes. Running backs dime a dozen. I know everybody thinks that way, but Kamara's at his best when you have a guy that you can pair with him to kind of work between the tackles. That's how you maximize Kamara, right? Get him on the edges. Certainly can run between the tackles, but you don't want him slamming it up in there 20, 25 times. And believe me, you're going to have to run the football. Now, I say all that, and Tyrann Mathieu signed with the Saints.
Big signing.
Big signing. So, was the Alontae Taylor pick necessary? What's going there? You know what I'm saying? Like, did we force that issue? Perhaps we could have added a pick or two. You know what I'm saying? Getting out of that round 2 hole. You know what I mean? So a couple of different things to weigh there. A couple of different things to weigh there. I think the defense is ready to go. Can Olave and Penning be what's necessary to put them over the top on the offensive side of the ball? Perhaps, but I still think it comes down to Jameis Winston and whomever's calling the plays, and of course the availability of Alvin Kamara as well. So I'm gonna stick with my B-. It was a very roundabout way to stick with my B-.
You almost got us. We almost got us, Drew.
I had to filibuster a little bit. All right. So we have one more team in the NFC South to grade in terms of their 2022 NFL draft class.
Who are the champs? Huh?
Former
Yeah, ain't do that.
Former
What happened, man? Thought you had Tom, man.
We need to be healthy, bro. Give me Tristan Wirfs. Give me Chris Godwin. Pick one, and we go to the Super Bowl and we win it. I just needed one, bro. That's it.
So we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady is back. All right. Tom said, I'm good off this retirement thing. It only took about a month and a half. He is back in the fold. Of course, the Bucs were on the clock. Drew was crossing his fingers, hoping to get a shot to get Jermaine Johnson. Thought he might fall to him. Of course, the Jets swooped in front of them and selected the aforementioned Jermaine Johnson. The Bucs then decided to trade out of the first round. The Jaguars traded up, selected Devin Lloyd. The Bucs had the first pick on day 2, and ultimately they took Logan Hall. They followed that up with Luke Gadecki, then Rachaad White, I know a favorite of both Drew and Headley's. Cade Otton, quality tight end, nice option there, particularly with Cameron Brate coming to the end of his deal. No more O.J. Howard and Rob Gronkowski a little bit longer in the tooth. So just with respect to those 4 selections, what were your thoughts, Drew? Drew, you are a Bucs fan, a resident Bucs fan. Let me know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, man, it was fantastic. It was fan. We can give him an A right now, bro. Don't even worry about it. We can walk away. No, seriously. Yeah, man. We can talk about the Logan Hall, man. Listen, They wanted they like Logan Hall simply because he's a different body type.
Did they force that issue though in their desire to get kind of a twitched up interior defensive lineman? We have Vita Vea out there. They've had the Golstons. They've had the Sues of the world. Bruce Arians went on record saying, "Hey, we need some more quickness up front." Right? Mm-hmm. Did they reach on Logan Hall in your estimation or no?
No, because they traded down. Once Jermaine Johnson was off the board, they're like, all right, well, we can punt on it. You know what I'm saying? And word on the street is they even like.
You don't think there was a guy along the defensive line that made, you had a higher grade on? I know they were looking for a particular type of player, but just in terms of
Wyatt?
So Wyatt was available. Wyatt was available.
He was.
Travis Jones certainly was available.
Yeah,
but Winfrey was available.
Correct. But it's when I say, because I was thinking about it too. I was like, those guys were available. Jones obviously is a different type of player. He's more closer to Vita than Hall, right? Winfrey, where did he go? He went a little bit later, and Hall just gives you a different body type, bigger. He's actually closer to Golston with more burst and speed at the snap. So I think that's why they went with Hall. Plus he was if I'm not mistaken, he was the last guy left that they had on their board, and they were able to trade out, pick up a couple of extra picks. And that's something Jason Light always likes to do. And so it kind of fell into their lap. Someone would have had to have given them the kitchen sink, everything and the kitchen sink for them to move out of that 33rd spot, because that was their guy.
It was their guy. And to your point, they in all likelihood, if they couldn't find a trade partner, they would have selected him with the 27th selection. What do you think about his performance in Mobile?
Hall?
Kind of lukewarm, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of yeah. He was kind of lukewarm, man. He was kind of lukewarm, but he gonna be next to some beast.
What does the tape tell you though, Headley?
No, I love Logan Hall, man. I love his tape. He's one of my favorite in the defensive line class. I like him over all those names except for maybe Devontae Wyatt. I thought he was the end of the first round talent, man, and the Bucs traded down, got some additional picks, got him in the second round. He's just big, athletic, strong. He dominated the competition he faced. He get after the quarterback. He gives you some nasty. In my notes, I have him as Sue Nasty, and that's the guy that he's going to be replacing here in Tampa Bay along the defensive line. Put him next to Villa and them boys on the edges, man. I love the fit.
The one thing, and of course, it sounds like I'm throwing cold water on him. Perhaps I'm throwing a little cold
A
water.
little bit. Yeah, you like some other guys.
A little bit. I'll say this about Logan Hall. I think I agree with you from a talent standpoint, right? I think he has the goods, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer before he starts making the impact I think people are anticipating. I saw the level of competition change.
Yeah.
There was less effectiveness there.
Yep,
right?
That's what it is.
So that's just, I'm not suggesting that he won't get up and live up to the billing. I just think if you expect it immediately, you might be a little disappointed. That's all I'm saying. And considering that this is a Todd Bowles team, BA still has his imprints on it. There's going to be no rush with respect to rookies. Rookies will have to wait their turn. They will have to demonstrate that they're ready before they're able to contribute. So certainly a good landing spot for Logan Hall. I think he's going to be in a very good room. Luke Gadecki was a guy that really had a hive, really built up some momentum leading up to the draft, and he went higher than I think a lot of the prognosticators thought. I think inside the NFL, I think there was certainly a feeling in terms of where he might go, where he might end up. But he certainly went sooner than I anticipated. What do you think about that selection, Drew?
This guy's playing guard with no mercy. We just lost Alex Kappa and we lost Marpet to retirement as a surprise. And we got to replace that aggressiveness. We got to replace that physicalness. And I think they got a guy in Luke Gadecki who he's a glass eater. That's what he said in the interview. I'll take the glass eater on my office line all day long, bro. No questions. You know what I mean? I think he has some technique issues, but I think playing inside the phone booth, that is the guard position, I think that'll get corrected. They have one of the better offensive line coaches. They'll get him right, and he'll compete. They got some guards there that it's going to be a competition at that left guard spot. So it's not like he's going to walk in and get it. I think he may have the head start. But it's you got Fred Johnson from the Bengals, who's a mauler as well in terms of the run game. And they said this year we're going to run the ball more than we have in the past, with the exit of BA and wanting to protect Brady. And obviously they showed that with the next pick that they did. So and Luke Gadecki would be perfect in terms of the scheme that they run for the run game. So yeah, man.
You pilfered Shaq Mason from the Patriots.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. I mean,
so we can associate him with this draft class. So definitely a great move there.
Pretty much just reiterating what you're saying, the trade for Shaq Mason, bring a Gadecki in there, running the ball more. I know Brady could pass it all over the football field, but last season when he lost his receivers, the Bucs could have ran the ball more to kind of help him out. But I think with this draft class with Gadecki and a guy you were about to mention, Rashad White, that I love a lot, I think that could go a long way in helping the Bucs rushing attack.
Tell me about Rashad White.
Man, this guy, he got the goods. It's electrifying. To me, I thought he was the best second level running back in the class. And what I mean by second level is once you block it up for him and he's against linebackers, he can make them really look really bad and put on burners on them and go the distance. Leonard Fournette is a good running back, but he just doesn't have that juice like he once did in LSU. So you add a guy with some young blood to compete, to split carries with Leonard Fournette. And I think Drew said it last time. He's probably what the Bucs wanted from Ronald Jones. I think you'll get here with Rashad White.
Yeah, because he can catch out the backfield. He can block in third down situations. Kedley said, man, he's dangerous in the open field, man. Like it ain't just he gonna make you miss. He will run through tackles. Strong runner. I wouldn't necessarily call him a violent runner, but he's very decisive behind the line of scrimmage in terms of once he makes his cut, that's it. Once he knows where the hole is, that's it. There's no hesitation, but he does have patience at the same time. Some people were comparing him to Le'Veon Bell-ish in that category, but man, listen, this is a player that they haven't had on the roster in terms of consistency. When you look at all the running backs that they have, he's different. He's different than all the running backs they have. They got a little bit of a different version for every running back that they have, from Vaughn to Fournette to Gio, and now you add White. Man, it's gonna be. He's probably the one guy that I'm more excited to see than anybody else that they drafted at this point.
Hell, you said it. You said it during day 2 of the draft. You're like, the Bucs getting all the players I want for the Falcons. And in reference to Logan Hall and Rachaad White. My first experience watching Rachaad White, I believe, may have been one of those Pac-12 after dark games. So you
be killing those.
We on the East Coast, man, bro. I'm telling you, bro. I be up all kind of hours of the night during the football season. Bro. I be up 2 a.m. in the morning watching Pac-12 football, watching the Mountain West, bro. I be up, bro. So I saw him and I love the vertical cuts. I love the slashing style, man. It was really impressive, and I think Headley, he did a great job of kind of capturing what that translates to. It's when you get to the second level, you become a headache for that back seven. It makes you look ridiculous at times, and then he can pull away from you as well. Certainly can pull away from you. Let's talk about day 3. Let's talk about day 3, Drew, and what the Bucs were able to accomplish here.
Yeah, with K. Dotton from Washington, I think you can put him in the same vein as a Cam Brate. Cam Brate has been a team guy. He's a guy who's been taking pay cut after pay cut. I'm assuming he loves it here in Tampa, doesn't want to go anywhere, so he's willing to do that. But, he's probably on his way out. And so you got to have his replacement. Obviously, O.J. Howard didn't work out. Ron Gronkowski, I'm assuming he's coming back, but we're still waiting on that. And so you need a guy who, like I said, he's similar to Cam Brate in terms of getting his head around. He's a pass-catching tight end more than he's a blocking tight end. Mm-hmm. And I think that this guy actually would have gone higher, but the quarterback play was what I like to call piss poor. And, it is what it is in terms of that. We could talk about the punter. He's allegedly the best punter in the draft, allegedly. I don't know if it's him or the guy from San Diego State, but,
There are a few of them, actually.
Yeah, it was a guy that went before all of those guys.
Oh, was it?
Penn State.
Was it for the Ravens? Was it the Ravens? He went to the Ravens?
Might have been the Ravens.
Yeah.
Lamar is a good punter. Yeah.
And then Zion McCollum, who is long, fast. I do like the pick. He was at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yep.
And let me see where I got some notes for him. Let me see. Do I got my notes for him? Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I actually anticipated the Bucs to go corner a little bit earlier, but to get a guy with the kind of athletic profile and traits that McCollum has in the 5th round is excellent value.
Speed, return. They're gonna try him at punt return, ball skills. The Smooth brothers at the route running, they might get him. So we'll work him in there. We'll figure it out. But I think they really, really like him.
Yeah, I like this tape a lot. Zion McCollum, small Sam Houston State. I thought he'd be better in zone. I know you guys, hybrid, you mix it up. He has a trace of play, man, like you said, like his ball hawking ability, man. To me, I know he's bigger than Brent Grimes, but they got the same makeup where they'll go up and get the football.
Climb the ladder.
And he could be a special teams gunner if he doesn't, he probably won't crack the starting lineup, but so he could play special team gunner, be a returner, so he can help in the third phase of the game, which is very important. So, definitely I see him being on that 53-man roster.
Keith? Let's go Keith. I like Keith. Go Keith. Let me know. Hit me down in the comment section with the phonetic if I said it wrong. Words are hard. The tight end out of Minnesota, it's a blocking guy. I don't know if you saw the video, but the boys is out in the garage, bro. It was out in the garage with the phone call, man. Yeah, I respect it, man. He looked grizzly, blocker, and they need that. You can never have too many blocking tight ends, seeing how they're going to run the football more. And then you got Andre Anthony, which I think he got hurt this past year. And it's just a guy that I think that they like the traits and his ability, but there's not a lot out there for him because he was hurt. So I think they were just taking a shot on to see what can become of that guy.
You know what it is at that point. We're looking for measurables. We're looking for athletic profile and things of that nature. And of course, LSU has a glut of those types of players. Mm-hmm. Hadley, what kind of grade are you giving the Bucs 2022 NFL draft class?
I'm gonna go B plus. I'm gonna go solid B plus. I ain't gonna go with the A. You know what I'm saying? Only the Falcons gets that in this division. But I'm gonna go with a B plus, man. I like the talent in Logan Hall, Rachaad White, Zion McCollum. Like that talent. The need in Gadecki, Kate Otten. The need for tight end. Is Gronk coming back? I'm not sure. But O.J. Howard's not in the building anymore, so more depth along the tight end in the tight end room, man. And you got one of the best punters, man. You might not use him as much. You got Thomas out there, but You know, in the playoffs, man. He probably come through big in the playoffs for y'all.
Are you saying we're gonna lose? That's what you're saying?
It's gonna be the games will be closer.
Oh, okay.
More
Field
defense.
Position. Field position.
Okay.
Third phase of the game, man.
Just check it. Just check it. I'm giving the Bucs an A because they came in with fewer picks than they left with. In that trade with Logan Hall, he's the highest guy on your board. You could have got him at 27. You trade down, and you're able to actually get players with the picks that you got from trading down. So I give them boys an A because every pick I can see here actually being a contributor.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a B plus. I'm gonna give them B plus. I agree with you, Drew. Jason Light deserves credit for being able to
Follow the light.
Yeah.
Acquire Logan Hall. You know
gotta
what's
follow
funny
the
about
light.
Jason Light? You know what's funny about Jason Light? It seems like Jason Light has had 2 careers.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely, man.
He's had like 2 careers in Tampa Bay. Like
Yeah, it was like he was getting it bad early on, and then
bro, like,
all of a sudden
and then
he's the
light
man now.
bulb. The light bulb came on.
There
The
you
light
go.
bulb came on. You know what I mean? But being able to get Logan Hall and some additional draft capital, even though that was probably the player that you're going to pick, the 27th overall pick, that certainly deserves respect. They cashed in Gadecki again. Like I said before, I think I would have liked to see them address the cornerback position a little bit sooner. But overall, very, very strong group here. You got some. It's a veteran team with a nice blend of young players. And outside of perhaps the first 3 selections, I don't expect huge contributions. Of course, you can include Camarda with respect to that, considering that he's a specialist. But I think what they've done here is effective, considering that again they had fewer picks than they ultimately left with entering. All right. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for our draft grades for the NFC South 2022 NFL Draft. Guys, let us know what you think. Let us know what you have for grades for the teams in the NFC South. For Headley, Drew, this is Juice signing off.